flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Special P&Z meeting will be held immediately after the ending of the Aquifer Protection Agency meeting. In case of fire, there are two ways to leave these chambers. To my left, you exit through the chamber double doors. Turn left, down a flight of stairs. At the base of the stairs, turn left and go outside the building. The best way and probably the quickest would be at the rear of the chambers, through the double doors, down the stairs. In either case, once you're outside of the building, please get a safe way, distance away from the building. I'll get it built. Roll call for the agency, please.
Charles Durin.
Here.
Charles Ladd.
Here.
Nick Lefakis.
Here.
Mary Scott.
Here.
Virginia Higley.
Here.
Ken Nelson.
Here.
Linda DeGray.
Here.
Sarah Gruber. Absent. Guillermo Salazar. Absent. And Richard Suzak is here.
Okay, all regular commissioners are here. All right. You have the minutes of December 21st. It was a special meeting.
Make a motion to approve the December 21st
Second.
Aquifer Protection Agency meeting.
Motion's made and seconded. Any additions, errors, or omissions?
Looked like somebody did a good job.
Okay, January 18th, special meeting. Oh, I'm sorry, all in favor? Opposed, abstentions, one abstention, 6-1, 601. January 18th, special meeting.
Make a motion to approve January 18th, 2018
Second.
Enfield Aquifer Protection Agency special meeting.
Motion's made and seconded. Any additions, errors, or omissions?
Another good job.
Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed, it's unanimous, 700. Okay, this is, again, just a reminder, because it's not something we do all the time. It's the Aquifer Protection Agency. Is there anyone who would like to speak to the Aquifer Protection Agency? As long as there is nothing else on this agenda pertaining to what you want to discuss, any matter that's part of an open public hearing of the agency, or any matter of the agency that may be pending. Anyone want to discuss anything with the agency? Second call to discuss with the agency. Last call. Okay, moving on. Old public participation we just did. Old new business. Reading of the legal notice, APA 2-7 Moody Road, 7 Moody LLC, Aquifer renewal form for 7 Moody LLC. Read the legal notice, please.
The Enfield Aquifer Protection Agency will hold a special meeting on Thursday, September 20th, 2018 at 7 p.m. in the Town Hall Council Chambers, 820 Enfield Street, Enfield, Connecticut, concerning the following application: APA-2, 7 Moody Road, 7 Moody LLC, Aquifer renewal form for 7 Moody Road LLC. Charles Durin.
Here.
Charles Ladd.
Here.
Nick Lefakis.
Here.
Mary Scott.
Here.
Virginia Higley.
Here.
Ken Nelson. Linda DeGray.
Here.
And Richard Suzak is here.
This is a renewal of an existing registration. Yes, sir. Please come forward, name and address.
For 7 Moody.
Yes.
Okay.
Good evening. My name is Jeffrey Lindequist. I work in the law office of Michael Parker. I'm here for Michael Parker, the gentleman who prepared the application. And with me is Dennis Lassard from 7 Moody LLC. If you have any questions for us, we're happy to answer on our renewal application.
Questions for the applicant?
Well, seems pretty straightforward. Somebody did their homework.
Okay, actually, there's, as I remember, there's less going on up there because they aren't doing automobiles. That's the one, I think.
They still are.
The tenant bases remain largely unchanged. The only significant change is that one machine shop took over a different machine shop, but there's no net increase in
Yeah.
the regulated activities. One of the machine shops, Sturm and Ruger's, actually ceased the regulated activity. That's really just an office space. And same with the automotive repair business.
Anyone in the audience would like to speak in favor or against this application? Anyone in the audience would like to speak in favor or against this application? Last call to speak in favor or against the application. From administration, anything?
No,
Nothing?
this is pretty straightforward, just another renewal of the same thing that you've renewed in the past from our records, so.
I believe, no, is there a, no. So,
There's no complaints from the last time, so we're good.
I know, but, okay, so I will close, let me get the right number. APA 2, is it 2-7 or 2?
No,
Yeah, 2. Okay, I've closed it, yes.
Do we go out and do inspections on facilities like this before they come forward for either a renewal or an application?
Yeah, we send Rick out and he does the inspections.
Okay.
Yeah,
So we would
Rick
get
goes
feedback
out.
from them if, one of the containments to the machine was broke or something?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm new on the commission, so I just,
No, yeah,
I think they were one of the first ones to come in when it originally started, and Jose and Ray Warren went out there and personally sat down and chatted with the owner, and the owner showed him around the operation, so everything was good from the first. What I thought is that this is a modification, so in the file somewhere you should say "see also" and put the number for the first one, because 5 years down the road, nobody's going to remember that there's two different numbers for that one
you
site.
can give them 5 years.
I'm all set.
But I can't do anything.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the registration for regulated activities in the aquifer protected areas for APA-2, 7 Moody Road.
It's a
Second.
renewal. Yep. Motion's made and seconded. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous, 7-0-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Have a
you
good
for-
evening.
I found the application very well filled out, as Charlie said, and very informative.
I'm happy to take credit for Michael Parker's work.
Okay, good. It would make our work a lot easier if they all came in that way. Okay. Next, read the legal ad and take the attendance for AR number 16.
The Enfield Aquifer Protection Agency will hold a special meeting on Thursday, September 20th, 2018, at 7 p.m. in the Town Hall Council Chambers, 820 Enfield Street, Enfield, Connecticut, concerning the following application: AR 16, 65 Hazard Avenue, application to allow the expansion of the existing building and parking lots, the installation of a stormwater detention basin, and the relocation of an oil storage tank over the aquifer. JCS Real Estate Owner Applicant, map 56, lot 27, Business Local Zone, BL. Charles Duran.
Here.
Charles Ladd.
Here.
Nick Lefakis.
Here.
Mary Scott.
Here.
Virginia Higley.
Here,
Ken Nelson.
Here.
Linda DeGray.
Here.
And Richard Suzak is here.
Reminder to the commission, there was 3 hearings that this application is involved with. It's this, and then the building and the flood plain. In trouble already, huh?
Should use my own.
Yeah. Oh.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. My name is Dana Steele. I'm a professional engineer with J.R. Russo and Associates. Our office is at 1 Shoham Road in East Windsor. And I'm here this evening representing Family Ford and JCS Real Estate, who is the LLC holding company for Family Ford. And with me this evening is Jack Serrett, the owner of Family Ford, and Eric Forsch from Forsch Construction, who's the general contractor who will be building this addition should it obtain approval. This is an application for a permit to modify an existing registration. This property is 5.125 acres located on the north side of Hazard Avenue, Route 190, between Freshwater Boulevard and Palumba Drive. Page 3 of our plan set shows the existing conditions as it is today at the site. The blue line shown bisecting the property is the limits of the aquifer protection zone. This is a part of the aquifer associated with wellheads for Hazardville Water Company. And we're in the very limits of that aquifer boundary. So a portion of this property is in the aquifer protection zone, but the only activities in that area are a dumpster pad and some parking, as well as storm drainage in that area. There is an outside, above ground, 750-gallon used oil storage tank that's on the back of the building. I've highlighted there in orange so you can see it. It's a double wall containment, so it meets the current standards and requirements of the aquifer regulations, but it is not in the aquifer area, but the property is in the aquifer area. Therefore, we registered back in 2015 for this property. With that registration, at the time, we included two documents: a materials management plan, and that's a plan that documents all of the hazardous materials associated that are used at this site. Your aquifer regulations don't regulate all uses, but any use that uses the types of materials that, if they got into the aquifer, could cause contamination, require this registration. It's not that they're not allowed to be in the aquifer zone, but they have to be regulated properly. There have to be proper measures to protect and prevent any spills and any of these materials getting into the groundwater. So, as I said, all those activities currently occur outside of the aquifer area in an enclosed building, and so those have been identified in the material and management plan. We also provided a stormwater management plan because, in addition to what goes on inside the building, there's concern for any activities going outside the building. When it rains, the rainwater will wash those pollutants into stormwater and into water courses, and eventually make their way potentially into the aquifer. And so for that reason, your regulations are concerned about hazardous materials in the building, but also how do we deal with stormwater outside of the building. And so when we submitted that report back in 2015, one of the deficiencies that we noted was that the oil water separator for this facility is in the back here was substandard. It was only 450 gallons, and the regulations require 1,000 gallons. So we noted at that time that needs to be updated, and we said that we'd be coming back with a plan to make improvements to the site, and we would address that at that time. Well, here we are. Now we're at that point, and that is one of the improvements that we're making to this site. The oil water separator will be 1,000 gallon, meeting that requirement and meeting all the standards for current standards for protection of the aquifer. Basically, it takes all the water from the floor drains when you wash off the floor drains and any leaking materials that aren't aren't picked up and absorbed by absorbent materials, that trace amounts that make it into there don't go into the storm drainage. They go into the sanitary sewer to the treatment plant where it gets treated. That's how they want it handled, and so that's what we're doing. But now we're getting into compliance with the size of the separator. The stormwater management plan is also concerned about spills that happen in the parking lot with vehicles in the parking lot if there's a spill, and the plan documents what they're supposed to do. So if there's a car with that's leaking oil and it leaks oil onto the pavement, they bring the car in for service. And they see the oil, not supposed to just leave it there and wait for the storm water to wash it away and wash it into the drainage system, which could then get into the aquifer. They have to pick it up, and so that's what these types of plans are documenting. The process for that. So as a part of this application, we have updated both of those plans and included them. They should be in your packets, the material management plan and the stormwater management plan for this property, and they've been reviewed by the applicant and to confirm their accuracy, and they've been updated to include the expansion. So let me show you that briefly. The expansion involves an expanded showroom in the front. There's really no hazardous materials associated with a showroom, so it's not really applicable to this application. But in the back, there is an expanded service building. This rectangle here is the existing service area, and so they're approximately doubling the size of that of the service area with this 8,500 square foot addition, and the above ground outside used oil storage tank that was located here is now obviously got to be moved because the building is going there. So it's being moved to this location just to the right of the overhead door for entering the building. So as you can see here, it's still outside of the aquifer protection zone, which is preferred, not required, but it's preferred. And if we tried to inspect that. We've also proposing a slight increase in the amount of pavement on the site, and I've highlighted it here in orange so you kind of just see the distinction, just a little bit more pavement in the back of the site for additional parking and display spaces. We are not aware of any violations at this site that have been reported since our last registration, and so we believe that our plans that we've submitted to update are in compliance with your aquifer regulations. All of the hazardous materials will be conducted inside the building. That's one of the key things. If it's inside the building, then rain can't get to it, and so it can be contained that way. But we have updated the floor plan that's provided in the material management plan to include this addition and all the hazardous materials associated with that. So we respectfully request approval of this modification to the registration. So if you have any questions for myself about the plans that were prepared, I'd be happy to answer them. If you have questions about the facility and how it operates, Mr. Serrett can help. If you have questions about the construction, myself or Mr. Forish can address that. Thank you.
Questions? Yes. Ken, go ahead.
The oil in the antifreeze, waste oil and antifreeze tank being outside, is that undercover?
No, it's a concrete tank, double walled, so it's protected from the elements.
Okay. How do they pour the waste antifreeze and oil into the tank?
It's pumped in.
From inside the building? So
yeah.
it's a
So the
completely
oil-
sealed unit
Right.
outside?
Completely sealed, and it's pumped in. So they have a disposal area inside, and then that's pumped to the tank.
Okay, because you go by some garages, they got the 55-gallon drums outside, they forget to cap it, it fills with rain, and it makes a mess. So if it's self-contained, okay, that's what I have, I'm good with that.
Okay.
Is it emptied on a regular basis? I wouldn't have asked that, but now Ken is bringing up,
Any
You know,
idea how
the waste.
frequently it has to be emptied, Mr. Sarah?
Jack Serrett, principal, I guess, of Family Ford. It is emptied on a regular basis. I mean, certainly, when it gets up to the fill level, we
Okay.
call a company in,
Yeah.
they take it away and give us certainly a record of what they took away.
Thank you. I only mentioned it because Ken was questioning, it came to mind because of Ken's question. The other question I had, and maybe staff can kind of answer this, is this is now a addition to an existing approved aquifer protection application. How does that time frame work? Does it restart the clock for 5 years, or does it just go to the end of their first approval? How does that work?
I believe that the renewal is still for 5 years.
Okay.
So they'll still need to.
The reason I ask is because somehow or other, the aquifer certificate, it was approved in 2015, and it goes through August 31st, 2024. I'm sure that's a typo, but, you might want to correct it to 2020.
I believe your regulations say 10 years.
Five. I looked it up.
Is it 5 or there was a
It's,
discrepancy between.
Section 8.
5 years.
5 years. It has no reflection on, you did a wonderful presentation the first time I watched, but I'm just curious. That's why I asked about the time frame. I don't want to short you any, and I don't want to do the wrong thing.
Okay.
So would you change it back to 2020, or would it just stay as a mistake, it's 2024?
I think we'll have to look into that and figure that out. That's a good question.
Okay, so if I understand you correctly, if it is 2024, this will just roll into that, or if it's 2020, this still would roll into it, so there wouldn't be two separate dates.
I believe so. Yeah. We'll look into it and we can let you know or
Okay, yeah,
what you want.
thank you.
Ken?
One more thing. On the original plan, you have a dry well in the corner of the showroom there. You're removing it?
Correct.
And you're not replacing it?
Correct.
Okay, so the downspouts are just going to go into the parking lot?
They'll go into the drainage system, yeah.
Okay. And that's going back to the detention pond?
No, that's going to the storm drainage system, which runs to the north towards Cranbrook Boulevard.
Okay.
else? Dana, just one, on the outside tanks, you have lips around on the ground around the tanks in case they do open?
On the above-ground tank,
You're right.
No, right?
Yeah, they're supposed to be. I thought.
yeah, it's a sealed unit. I'm not sure I understand your question.
Well, the others that we've had, although it's not a sealed unit, usually are on a cement thing with a case lips around the thing in case
Right.
there is a spill.
Right, yeah, so if you had something like that, like a spill tray in a sense, underneath it, then you would need a roof over it, because otherwise it would fill up with water. And if it had a hole in the bottom, then that wouldn't contain anything.
Okay.
So this is just a completely sealed. It's got the spill tray in a sense wraps around it, and so you get the containment as all one unit.
A tank within a tank.
Yeah,
Okay.
tank within a tank.
I think Raquel found an answer to your question, actually.
So to address Commissioner Higley's concern regarding Section 8.
Can't hear whoever.
Can't hear me? Okay. Well, Section 8 is, that you were referencing was for the renewal and registration requirements where there's 5 years. This staff report was written as per Section 9, which is a permit requirement. And if you go to page 20, it says the permit shall expire 10 years from the date of issuance of such permit by the agency. So the agency is issuing a permit for the activity that's being proposed today.
All the rest of them have been 5 years, though.
This is what we have in our regulations as well as in the model regulations. So it's referenced that way. The questions that were proposed in the staff report, those were straight from the State of Connecticut Aquifer Protection Manual, And those are the questions that
basically
are
everything
pertinent to the approval of this permit.
8 to 9, I think she said.
Thank you.
Do we not have a copy of the drainage system?
There is, I'm sorry. I thought, I read a description of it. And it's,
If you look at 5, that should be the drainage plan.
goes into, yeah, I know what you read, you're right.
Because,
You're asking about storm drainage?
yeah, Mr. Steele, I just have one question. In terms of, you are raising, the part of the site in the 100-year flood zone?
Well, we aren't the flood zone, we've
I
got
know.
to get there.
That's a application for
hearing.
later on tonight, so we maybe address that then.
If you want to keep them separate, basically we have to, I think.
The storm drainage is on the existing, for the existing site, includes two catch basins in the back that then connect into a catch basin off the site, which runs out to Cranbrook Boulevard. What we're proposing is 3 additional catch basins that will drain the site, bringing it around the addition and into that same structure. How many more square feet of pavement? Probably have that.
My concern is between the addition and the additional pavement, you're adding a lot more storm drainage water into the municipal storm drains.
Oh, I see. Yeah. So it was in my cover letter dated July 30th to Jen Picascia, 9,636 square feet. So, and I on this plan, see, I highlighted it in orange here, but absolutely recognize that's an increase. That's why we're proposing a detention basin. This site is not going into the drainage system. We pitched it the other way so that it drains into here, is detained, and before going into the system. So there is no increase in runoff to the municipal system. The town engineers reviewed it and was satisfied. So we believe that there's no issue from a storm drainage standpoint.
That's what I was going to ask. Jen, there's nothing here from the town engineer. Is there a reason?
Well, this is an aquifer
I know,
application.
but he usually calculates these things for us.
We didn't receive any comments from the engineer.
Well, he commented on the overall plan, so that would be
Overall plan,
applicable to this as well.
What the part of it that he.
Sure.
Yeah. We didn't even receive on the overall plan either, so I didn't see any anyway. Or fire department, because I'm going to ask a question later on the circulation, because there's nothing from the fire department. And they're very particular about their ability to get around the building.
We gave you all the comments that we received, if you received them in your
All I
packets.
see is, one, that there wasn't any comment from the health department, but there wasn't from any of the others. There was no comments from any of them.
If you want to wait to get comments from them, that's,
It may be important
They
enough.
They probably don't care.
Huh?
They probably think it's okay if they didn't comment. They usually don't if they.
Well, usually we've had them right that there isn't a comment.
Well, if you,
Because-
Maybe
Sorry?
it's in with the other paperwork, for the other applications?
No, it isn't.
Oh, okay.
no, it's not. In regards to the aquifer, if you review section 6.5, evaluating a permit per the Connecticut Aquifer Protection Program Manual, there's a series of questions in order to issue the permit that has to be answered and addressed, and if the
Yeah,
applicant does
they
meet
were
that,
very thorough on
they
it.
would be
I was
issuing
going to say
the
later, I
permit.
appreciate what they did because it was very good. But we also have from our own staff input, which we don't have.
Well, that, and my concern is, I used to own a garage. Cars get towed into a garage, especially with this large service bay, with a mechanical problem. One of the biggest mechanical problems is oil leaks, blown motors, bad trannies, stuff like that. And if I'm correct, the service area parking lot is behind the new service bays, right? On the aquifer, with no drainage. It's just gonna run off to the detention pond. So there's no way to put an oil separator on the storm drains or anything like that before it hits that detention pond, or runs right into the aquifer. But, you know, with the grading that you have, you're gonna force it to go to the pond.
Well, that's the purpose of the stormwater management plan, to provide a documented procedure for dealing with spills like that. So that's the nature of a use like this in an aquifer zone. That is a potential, and it needs to be addressed by cleaning it up. So they can be held to that, and there's a procedure in place to make sure that that spills are picked up right away.
Nick?
So-
Well, I don't know if Ken's finished.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm done for now.
He looks like he's contemplating.
Yeah, I am, but he can go. Nick's all set.
So when the detention basin is created, is it layered so that it provides a natural filtration system for water seeping?
Well, what's going to happen? It's going to flow across the grass and then into the basin, where if there are suspended particles, they can settle out. If there's oil or things that float above the water, they can be trapped for removal. So there is also a maintenance plan on the plan, sheet 7, for dealing with the maintenance of the stormwater basin. So
You said they'd be trapped and going within. How are they trapped if there's nothing there to get them?
there's an outlet structure.
That's gonna trap the oils? Outlet structures don't trap oil that I know of. Maybe you got something new there.
Yep.
I know you have a detention basin on the cooling system where you got an oil-water separator. But in a detention basin, what's separating it?
Well, it's going to, one of the things that collects it is the vegetation that it's running through. It attaches to the vegetation and filters it through the vegetation. So this outlet structure has a grate over it, and then a V-notch weir. So at the bottom you have a very little flow, and then as the water rises, you get more flow through the orifice, and then if it reaches the top, it can overtop.
But again, what happens to the oil? I understand the water flow.
Right. So
There's no oil separator or anything on that back parking lot. There's nothing.
well, it's a paved surface, and it's going off into the grass. So I mean, it's going to be
Over the aquifer.
But it's supposed to be picked up before it gets washed away. That's what the regulation calls for.
I understand that, but, I mean, they're a huge business, they're a great business, but when they get a car towed in at 1 o'clock in the morning off the highway with a blown motor and the rod's through the oil pan, and he drops that car on the parking lot in the back, and that sits there all night, and it's raining, that oil's running. There's nobody there to clean it up, and that's my concern of all parking lots not to have drainage protected by an oil separator, that particular one. This one over here, the water, it's existing, it's not the service bays, you got brand new cars there, that's not gonna it shouldn't happen. The front of the building's same, so all this area, it's just this particular area being the service bays. I'm not gonna reinvent the wheel and say, move the service bays, but my concern is that oil is gonna hit the parking lot because that's its intended use, for broke-down cars. And there's nothing there to stop that oil from going. A service plan only works if somebody's there and aware of the problem.
So for that kind of a situation, though, wouldn't the oil have leaked out before the car got there?
May I address the board? Eric Forish with Forish Construction. The hypothetical that you've suggested, I would suggest back to you that the tow truck operators got more of an issue hauling a vehicle dripping oil down the road than would occur when the vehicle arrives, just as Member Lafakis just outlined. There's not going to be you're not going to bring a vehicle dripping oil and fluids down a highway. You're going to have EPA completely involved.
But
And I would defer to Mr. Sarrett as to whether you've ever encountered any of these in the experience of operating multiple dealerships.
Any dealership, any garage you walk through, there's big oil spots on the ground. They've cleaned them up. They use Speedy Dry. If they're there to address it, he's shaking his head. I owned a garage. So if you're going to try to sell me something that's going to hold water, because that doesn't. The oil pan gets a crack because the rod hits it. It's got a slow leak. They're record drivers. They got woke up at 2 o'clock in the morning. If it's not pouring out, that car's getting hooked and towed. It's going to get dropped in his parking lot. They're going to show up in the morning. They're not going to be happy because there's a big oil mess to clean up. We've all dealt with it who've owned a garage. So I'm sorry, but I'm not buying.
And I've built well over 24 car dealerships.
Mm-hmm.
And of those dealerships, when I visit them after they've been in operation, I don't see oil stains anywhere on their parking lot.
Okay.
It's just my experience that I'm sharing with you.
We could put an elbow or a hood on this pipe before it leaves to provide a trap for the oil on this. We could even put it in the
Well, you have one out back that's on the plans to be inspected
catch
and
basin
cleaned.
before it leaves the site as well.
Yeah, that's a standard procedure.
We could do
that's
that.
available.
Well, I think
we could
that's
add
what you
that
have
to
to
the
do.
Sure.
You have to have an oil trap out there.
Will that satisfy your concern if we put in a?
Well, the oil separator
hood?
for the storm drains in the parking lot, that's great. But what, I'm more
On this
concerned.
structure, too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that would absolutely, if you did that, then
So,
I'm
see,
all,
here's the structure. You got a pipe here, so you put a hood
Mhm.
on that. Provide. They'll give them opportunity to.
An oil water separator there.
No, if I may.
well, a hood and a water separator are two different
Yeah,
things.
and stormwater and sanitary are two different things. That's why the MDC is for sanitary separation.
Yes.
The oil water separator.
Yeah.
Okay.
A hood is the typical method to treat for stormwater separation.
So you're doing an oil separator for the storm drains.
No,
No, we're doing an
that's
oil separator for the
interior
sanitary.
floor drains
Sanitary,
because those
yeah.
are piped to sanitary.
Right,
Okay.
right,
That's the difference in the
Correct.
construction
correct.
components.
Yeah.
Those separators aren't designed to handle a big storm with a lot
Absolutely.
of flow. It's only
Yeah.
meant for low flows that you
Okay.
get in a floor drain from a hose washing down the floor.
If you do take care of that there, absolutely. It's just, I'm concerned, and I think
That's
everybody
very simple.
understands,
Yep.
you know, in a perfect world, he don't want to see the oil in his parking lot, but he knows it happens. Yep, I'm all set,
I think
thank
that would
you.
be pretty easy condition if you would consider adding that to your approval. Do we
You
put
got
hoods on the
that?
outlet structures?
Whoever's taking, Jen, you making a list?
Yep, we can add that as a condition.
I'm good with that.
Anything else? Questions? Okay. Now, if you're done, I guess. Okay. Huh? Are you, no more, you're all set? All set, Ken? Yeah, I know, I do. Anyone in the public would like to speak in favor or against this application? Anyone in the public would like to speak in favor or against the application? Last call to speak in favor or against the application. I'll close.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
If I could just also state for the record, we submitted notices to the State Health Department and to Hazardville Water Company to notify them of this application. And so they were duly notified by certified mail. And I submitted a copy of that at our wetland application when we were in before. And if you'd like another copy of that for this record, I'd be happy to.
Oh, yeah, you better,
submit
because
that.
it's always good to have copies of those things
Sure.
around.
Thank you.
Oh, absolutely, thank you. Anyone else in the public would like to speak in favor? Hearing none, I'll close AR 16. Okay. Just remember the one condition that we've added.
I'm just trying to figure out how to add it.
It starts on page 4 of 10, I believe. And it includes from 4 of 10 to 7, 10 of 10 is the end of it.
There it is, draft resolution.
No.
21 conditions.
Would be under, maybe you can make a C on top of page 8. There's a B, the development and implementation of stormwater management plan required.
No, it's not.
There's a place.
Yep, yep.
On page 8, that's referencing section 12 of the aquifer protection. So those are verbatim how you have it written out here. We can do a site-specific condition section,
right.
just so we can differentiate, because only that's just the way it's written in your aquifer protection regulations. I wouldn't put a C there.
So that doesn't go there?
Yeah.
It wouldn't go there. No, I would make another section, just
Okay,
site-specific.
so basically, could it go before, condition to be met prior to signing of plans?
Yeah, you can put
Okay.
it wherever you like.
All right.
Okay. As long as it gets in.
Yeah. Okay.
Any, before we go with this, well, are there any problems with the conditions?
I haven't seen the conditions.
You haven't?
No. Can you submit them to me?
Take an hour to read them.
There's 21 of them, plus one.
Well, there's a lot of references.
Enjoy.
I assume these are standard conditions, so
Yeah,
I don't
some
know
of
that
them
I have
are,
a whole
yes.
lot of.
They're all standard with.
a lot to say
well, not
about it.
standard with the P and Z ones, right, they're standard with our aquifer.
This really should say aquifer protection. Yep, I'm just going to change that,
Well,
too.
just when you
Yeah,
reference
I'll
it,
change
read
it.
off the top. I'll give them time to read it. There's no
Are these
one here.
conditions or are these standard criteria to be met in order to issue a
Well,
permit?
it's-
The resolution starts on page 4.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Oh, it's showing me up.
I think these are just mimicking your aquifer regulations, so I don't see any issue with them.
Get the speed read 6 pages.
Yeah, I'm skimming.
Trust us, they're fine.
That is fine with me. I feel comfortable that the regulations are simply mimicking the aquifer protection regulations, and so it's our expectation to comply with those.
With the exception of the one condition.
Well, yeah.
We're going to modify our
he's
plan
already
to
agreed to that
include the
one.
hoods.
I'm
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, he's good, Charlie. Say he's good.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion that we approve the draft resolution for the aquifer protection instead of the Planning and Zoning Commission for AR 1665 Hazard Avenue, Family Ford of Enfield, dated September 20th, as prepared by the Planning Department with the 21 conditions that are presently listed, and we're going to add an additional site-specific condition right before conditions to be met prior to signing of plans. That's going to state that an additional hood will be added at the outlet structure from the detention basin that's been added.
And the storm drains in the parking lot.
Yeah, and if there, if there is not one at that last structure at the storm drains, you will add one there too.
Correct.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Discussion. Again, it was a pleasure reading these because you learned a lot in reading, and I think it was a thorough job again. Saves a lot of time when you get here and for us. Appreciate the work that goes into it.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? That is unanimous.
Thank you. Stick around.
Okay, now we go.
On to the next stuff.
Let's see, where am I?
Closing this hearing. and going
Okay,
to the next one.
any other business for the aquifer protection, Jim?
Nope, that's it for
That's
aquifer.
it? No correspondence?
Nope.
Anything for the commissioners? Good. No applications?
Mr.
Are
Chair?
you still working with the state on, they were after us because we haven't, I guess not everybody has been registered.
We're working with that, and just as part of correspondence, we were thinking about perhaps updating the model regulations that you have adopted. They've been revised since your adoption revised in 2008. There's a new 2010 version that we'd like to.
We need to adopt them, we better adopt them because it's like our P and Z sections are so far behind. We catch up piece by piece and then we have a patchwork of regulations which are hard to work with.
All right, so we can get you copies of those regulations. I don't know if you want to adopt them tonight, but I would imagine you'd want to look at them first. So I don't know if you were meaning to
Yeah, I
adopt them
think so.
tonight, but I believe.
I've had calls on not looking at things before we
Yeah.
act.
So, yeah, we'll get you the regulations, the updated ones, and I guess we'll have to schedule another aquifer meeting for the next meeting beforehand.
Well, yeah, just give them to us and we can have another special meeting, that's all.
Okay.
Could be next
Well,
month.
it creates a
as long as we
special
get it
meeting
done.
for the rest of the
Anytime you're ready
applications.
to adopt them.
Right.
Would that just be as a separate aquifer meeting? We would just schedule it, I mean, we wouldn't have to advertise anything unless we had an application.
Yeah, well, you don't need an application if we can just have one and do it and get it out.
Okay.
I'm just concerned, do we have time to modify the regulations for the next meeting?
Yeah, the legal ads would have to be in by tomorrow.
Well, no,
No,
Or we
I'm
can-
talking
No,
about the,
please don't rush
we
it.
need to update the regulations. That means we're going to have to take the updates and insert them into the existing regulations. Do we have time for that?
No,
for the next
I don't
meeting.
think you will.
All right, then we can do
It's
it
off for
for
a
the
couple
following.
Yeah,
weeks.
give
We can
yourself-
schedule it.
Advise you.
And do it once
Yeah.
and then everybody's
Once
happy.
it's ready, we'll advise you.
Right,
Yep.
Okay.
right.
That
But-
sounds fair.
No, don't rush it, but when you're ready, we'll just have a special meeting and it'll be nice to have something that's up to date to work with. Okay, call a meeting of the, I'm sorry, Yeah, I do have to close it, I thought I had. Okay. Any unresolved issues? Chair will entertain a motion.
Motion to adjourn the Aquifer Protection Agency.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded to adjourn the Aquifer Protection Agency. All in favor? Boy, good. Okay, now.
No argument there.
No argument there. I call call to order the Enfield Planning and Zoning Commission, this special meeting for September 20th. And I welcome you all here. We won't go through the Pledge of Allegiance again. And the fire, unless somebody's new here, double doors to my left, down the stairs, turn left, and out the door, or the back of the chambers and out the door, and down the stairs. Okay, approval of, take the roll, please.
Charles Durin.
Here.
Charles Ladd.
Here.
Nick Lefakis.
Here.
Mary Scott.
Here.
Virginia Higley.
Here.
Ken Nelson.
Here.
Linda DeGray.
Here.
And Sarah Gruber, absent. Guillermo Salazar, absent. And Richard Suzak is here.
Okay, approval of minutes, September 6th.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the minutes from September 6th.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Unanimous. Those were very good minutes, and,
Another masterpiece.
yeah, there's a masterpiece.
Okay, now,
You have the zoning enforcement officer's report for you. Any questions through, well, he's not here, but any through Jen or any of the administrators that are over there?
So this, I mean, basically, Rick provided a list of his open cases concerning planning and zoning. So if you guys have anything that you think is missing, or if you would like him to address, or if you have any questions on what is on here, I can try to answer them or pass the questions along.
John, the only thing is, I drive down Enfield Street, I've been for quite a while. There's a pizza place up in the, I was gonna say the old First National, that he had the fire, and I think he's gone. Yeah, I think he was arrested or something. But
It's on the corner
that
of.
sign is still up. There's no pizza there. I don't think there's anybody in there. He's had the fire, I don't know, a year, 2 years ago.
Yeah, it's the corner of Dartmouth and Enfield Street, if that's the one you're talking about. That was the old bank at one time.
No, the bank is the gun shop. I'm talking.
Oh, no, I got the
Oh,
wrong one. Forget it.
You're talking 360 Federal Credit Union Bank, not Rockville Bank.
No, I'm talking
I'm
about,
talking up the fitness center.
I had the wrong one, but there was a bank on the corner of Dartmouth and
Oh, this is
across from the
Enfield. That was a long time, yeah, that was a long time
Yeah.
ago. Wrong one. Sorry.
Right, the bank was 360 Federal Credit Union, and they moved across the street to the old McDonald's.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
built,
Oh,
they tore down
see?
McDonald's
Learn
and built
something new
their.
every day. Thank you.
It wasn't that long ago, Jenny.
Anyhow, the pizza place, the sign's still up. And
Bacos?
the gas station, or the old station up here, in fact, somebody came in to buy it.
Pinellas.
Pinellas. All their signs are still up.
Porcello's.
Porcello's, I'm sorry, you're right. And all their signs are up. It's rather confusing.
Okay.
And there's also that shopping center, well, it's, I don't know, there's a lot of stores up there, are using a lot of non-signs that are out front.
Okay. Yeah, I
They
think
should come in for a sign that lists all their people in the plaza, a plaza sign like we've had for Stop and Shop and some of the other plazas.
Okay, yeah, we can certainly reach out to them and let them know that that's actually a new regulation that allows those type of signs in town. Maybe, I'm not sure if they know that they can come in and apply
I
for
don't know who
that.
the owner is, but I just, that pizza place should have had the sign down ages ago, because they had the fire, and then I think the fellow has been arrested and sent away for a visit.
Is it in our
Excuse me,
regulations that you have to take the signs
have to be
down?
removed.
Yeah, it's worded as the sign has to be tied to an active business, and there's a time limit. It's like 6 months. I used to know it by heart, but I can't give you the section. So unless it's been modified since I was there, it still has to be an active business, and that's why it's quoted like that, because you're a consumer and you're driving down the street and you're looking for something and you're pulling into all the wrong places. You're going to get very frustrated with town.
But I think they could use a pylon siding because they are putting a lot of freestanding little things every once in a while.
Yeah, Rick has caught them on that a few times, so I'll let him know about it, and he'll go out there and take a look.
Okay.
Pending hearing on there anyways.
Do we?
Yes, come.
Okay.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, could you pull your microphone closer? We're having a very hard time
Yeah, I
hearing
turned
you.
it away because we were, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. That takes care of that, I guess. How do we get that to staff reports? All right, public participation. At this point, the meeting, we welcome concerns, comments, and communication from the public, as long as things aren't on this agenda. Any part that is part of an open public hearing or any thing where the commission has not made a decision. Anyone would like to address the commission at this time? Anyone would like to address the commission at this time? Last call. Hearing none, we shall move on. Public hearing 2924. Is there anyone here for 2924? If there isn't, I won't open it, but if there had been public, I would have. The applicant has asked for an extension. I don't know why. I don't want to get a feeling we're getting played on this again, because this has been going on for
Years.
years.
Staff has been working with the applicants to sort of get all of the outstanding issues under control, so that when they come to you, everything's taken care of and kind of straightforward with the site plan. So they will be submitting more site plans for this application. That's what we're waiting on, and that's why they've asked for this public hearing to be postponed.
Do they have to pay to rerun the ad?
If it's postponed, no. If we were here, if I'd opened it, they would be on the clock.
No, but we still have to repost this in the paper,
Yeah,
right?
you do.
And that costs the town Enfield, or
you're
the
not.
town of
No,
Enfield
we
money.
don't have to, because it's being continued. You don't have to repost it.
Continued if it's not open.
Right.
Well,
It
then-
hasn't been opened, so therefore we don't have to re-advertise it. Even if it was opened and it was continued, you wouldn't have to post it again, as long as it's stated on the record what's happening. So, we're okay. They postponed it at our request because we wanted to make sure that the plans were correct, and we found a little bit of some discrepancies, so we met with the whole team this last week, so they are progressing as rapidly as they can, per our request.
But you don't have to, because we always have, you don't have to, if you've legally advertised it and you don't open it, you don't have to advertise it again?
That is correct. If somebody came the night that it was originally planned for to open, they would be informed that it was continued. And if anybody's paying attention to it, they would be reading it through the minutes or
Well, I
watching
always
these.
have opened it because we have a lot of people that work and they take the evening off or they have other plans. And we are here for the public too. And as far as the applicant, of course, if the town requested this, but as far as the applicant is concerned, he's known for a while. Plus, they usually are represented people, they've known that they have an appointment with us. So
Well,
it's
you
always
said the
been history
town-
that we've opened it.
Mr.
Town
Chairman,
postponed it,
it
not
was,
the
it was at
applicant.
Well, that's
our
what I
request
said.
that they postponed it because obviously staff has been, we've been, without a planner for a while and we,
Though I understand that
so we
part, the
just wanted
town
to make sure that we
postponed it, but
reviewed
I,
it properly.
that's why I don't mind, I didn't open it, but if it's at your request, but usually we've opened them because people take the time to come down. And, I know, they didn't come, that's why I asked if there was anyone here for that.
Right.
Because I wouldn't want them to come down out of Skidderco to come all the way down here to hear a hearing and then not have them have it.
I certainly understand your concern. However, it does open, if the applicant
we
isn't
asked
here and
for
we
it.
open it, there's really nobody to have a conversation with or.
Well, yeah, but
plans are
their information that they would give or their thoughts would go on record and be part of the
Right.
hearing, which would be continued. And
If
that's
they
why
were,
it's-
if they were here.
If they were here, that's
There's
why.
no public, there's no applicant.
That's why I
right.
said,
Right.
all right, I didn't open.
Right.
But I'm just down to the re-advertising that it didn't have to. That's a surprise.
It's not necessary.
All right. Okay, then we shall go on to,
Should we go
well,
on
wait a
record?
minute, we need a motion to continue.
I'll make a motion that we can
Well,
postpone
we
or
didn't
continue.
open it, so,
Yeah.
we
We'll postpone
we
it,
called it.
right? So that we don't have to re-advertise it in terms of, as long as we acknowledge the fact that it has been advertised,
Yes.
and that we will, sort of read, I guess, the advertisement at our next,
This is news for me, then, too.
if, I'm totally relying on your expertise that this is correct. So I'll make a motion that we postpone.
Well, wait a minute, do we need a motion for it, then? I guess we accept the letter, not
Right.
to open
Right,
it.
and you had already accepted it.
Okay,
so-
I guess the motion would be that we accept the letter or the request not to open the public
Okay.
hearing, which
I'll-
we won't.
I'll make that motion to not open public hearing 2924 and until our next meeting of February. October. October, yeah. I'm really skipping. I thought it was January. No, October 3rd or 4th. I forget exactly.
Second.
Okay, motion's made and
Fourth.
seconded. And we're all in favor? Good, we got that straightened out. Oh, boy, all right. Okay, now, I ought to do this, all right. Open public hearing 2925. Secretary, take the roll and read the legal notice.
The Enfield Planning and Zoning Commission will hold a special meeting following the conclusion of the Enfield Aquifer Protection Agency meeting on Thursday, September 20th, 2018, in the Town Hall Council Chambers, 820 Enfield Street, Enfield, Connecticut, concerning the following application. Public hearing 2925, 65 Hazard Avenue, special use permit application for the expansion of a non-conforming use to accommodate two expansions to the existing Family Ford building, a parking lot expansion, the installation of stormwater detention basin, and the relocation of an oil storage tank. JCS Real Estate, owner applicant, map 56, lot 27, business local zone BL. Charles Duran.
Here.
Charles Ladd.
Here.
Nick Lefakis.
Here.
Mary Scott.
Here.
Virginia Higley.
Here.
Ken Nelson.
Here.
Linda DeGray.
Here.
And Richard Suzak is here.
Okay, if the applicants here, if you
They
will
are.
identify yourselves, gentlemen, and make your presentation.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Dana Steele. I'm a professional engineer with J.R. Russo and Associates at 1 Shoham Road in East Windsor. With me tonight is Jack Serrett, the owner of Family Ford, and Eric Forsch from Forsch Construction, the construction general contractor for this project. Before I begin my presentation, I would like to to note that we did post public hearing signs on the property in coordination with the planning department, and I have a signed and notarized affidavit of that posting. So this is an application for a special permit for Family Ford, which is a car dealership, use motor vehicle sales and repair. The property is located in the BL zone, which does not allow this use. This site was built in 1970. And at that time, the business special district, not surprisingly, did allow car dealerships, motor vehicle sales, and service. So this was built at a time when it was allowed. The business operated under the names Enfield Ford and Fenton Ford, and now Family Ford. In 1984, your commission changed the zone to the BL zone, business local, which does not allow the car dealerships, automotive sales, and service. So this site has been in existence well before that regulation changed, and it's now an existing non-conforming use in the BL zone. Your regulations under section 3.40.1.d allow the expansion of a non-conforming use provided certain conditions are met. The first being that it is consistent with your plan of conservation and development. And we would submit that it is consistent with your plan of conservation and development, which envisions businesses in this central business district, this area of where the mall is and all the plazas are. It's all called your central business district. Your POCD envisions that these existing uses will expand. Well, that's what's happening here, where it's an existing use is expanding as opposed to a new use coming in. That would be a different matter if this was some other use and they wanted to put a car dealership here. That would not be allowed under your regulations. But because it's existing, there's an expectation that in time that businesses will grow. And so there is your regulations, I think, have wisely provided a means for existing businesses to expand and grow rather than have to think about relocating. Secondly, this expansion of a non-conforming use requires you to determine that this use is compatible with the surrounding neighborhood. Is compatible with the surrounding uses. Does it fit? Does it work with the other uses that are in this area? And for that, we would first note that this business has been here for 48 years. So if it's not compatible, then you would definitely know that it's not compatible. You would have the complaints. You would have reasons for being concerned and not wanting to see this use expand. And I don't believe that is the case. We're also proposing some aesthetic improvements to this site. So the building's been there for a while. It's a little dated, and so this is going to get a facelift. It's going to be it's going to revitalize and brighten and improve this area. So I think that's compatible with the neighborhood to bring it up into modern architecture and styles, and so we think this will be an aesthetic improvement to the site. There are several car dealerships down Palumba Drive, and so in the greater area, this use is certainly compatible with and consistent with other uses in this area, and a car dealership is a retail use. And so it's compatible with other retail uses. When you go shopping for a car and you see another business next door, you think, oh, I need to stop in at the bank, or I need to stop in at the get an ice cream, or I need to stop at one of the other stores in the business local area, in the business regional areas. So it's compatible. Commercial uses are compatible with each other, and so I think that this is only going to enhance and help the businesses in this area. We did note in our application, the cover letter that I submitted with this application, the current hours of operation, which is often requested as part of a special permit and just documented for the record. Those are Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to 8 p.m., Friday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., and Sunday, 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. So we believe that those hours are not, they're not to all hours of the night. So we think that these are compatible with the neighborhood and not creating a nuisance or a problem that would be of a concern. So as regard to the special permit, that's really the issue at hand, whether or not we should be allowed to expand this existing use that's has been here for 48 years. So I'd be happy to go on and continue on the site plan review at this time if you'd like, or if you'd like to address that separately, that's fine as well. What's your pleasure?
Well, this is a site plan
Okay.
review. We got the flood one is the next.
Well, that's a separate application.
Yeah,
So
right, that's what I said.
I can address them
That's
all right
next.
now if you'd like. however you'd
No,
like
we
to
do
it.
flood separate.
Okay.
We
So
do,
the flood issue we'll handle separate, but we'll now go on and talk about the site plan.
that's right.
So the existing site has two access points on Hazard Avenue, and there's display vehicles along the front of the property, and on the west side of the property, a showroom in the front, and then a larger service building in the rear. This property, 5.1 acres, has frontage on both Hazard Avenue and Cranbrook Drive or Boulevard. And so the application this evening is to expand this use with a building addition and a little bit of additional pavement. So sheet 4, which is the layout plan, shows the proposed, you can see that the showroom is bigger. It's also added a second-story mezzanine in a portion of the showroom, which will be used for offices. And the showroom's been expanded, modernized, and the look of the building is also going to be updated. The existing service building remains intact and will continue to operate, but it will be expanded with an addition in the rear. And there was also a small increase in the impervious area, the paved area in the back, and that brings the site into up close to the maximum impervious coverage allowed for this site. So I would say, based on your current regulations, this is the last expansion for this site from an impervious increase standpoint, unless your regulations change or some other.
Now, did you say the engineer had seen these? You have something from the engineer?
I did receive an email from the engineer. I assume that the staff received it too, indicating that he was satisfied with this application. So we submitted this application initially back in May. So the town has had it for 4 months. Staff has had it for a long time, and I think that everyone has had ample opportunity to comment on this, and so I don't think that there's any
I know, but that
anything else
doesn't,
that could be expected of us than to
I understand.
get that to staff in a timely manner.
I know, sometimes it's up to you to chase them though, as well as us.
Well, we're supposed to be a business-friendly town.
Yeah.
I mean, the applicant put his application in, and if it's been truly 4 months, shame on us.
Sometimes they have to go to the town manager and get them, but of course, there's been a lot of turmoil in town, and that's what
They
happens.
went through wetlands as well and gained approval through wetlands first. So
He reviewed it through that application.
July 30th.
Well, do you have the letters from that application?
he was all right with it under the first wetlands application. He said that he had no comments. We did distribute this application to all of the departments again and didn't receive anything based on the materials distributed this time around. But, I mean, I think other than the health department said that they didn't have any comments.
Yeah, right, that's.
So we've distributed all comments that
Can't go
we've
through this
received to
again
you.
because I did, all right.
Lori, if you could set up a meeting with the new town manager now and really emphasize the stress that we're having trying to do our job. Enfield wants to be a business-friendly community. We want to help these people get through the process, hold their hand, and get them building so they can expand. And we can't do it without the proper information. This is our town's fault, and I'm not going to hold the applicant up because of it. And I know the town attorney wants it, and I know the town council wants it. So it's our departments holding this up. And I'm asking this
It's happened
commission to
before.
go forward through you, be our spokesperson, and show our frustration. We're trying to do what they want, but there's other departments in town that maybe aren't so friendly, and it needs to stop. You know, and if you want a representative from planning and zoning to be there, I'm sure Charlie or somebody else will be there, but this has to change.
It has happened before, and I know things have been a little bit crazy around town, but there's really no excuse because they know the fire and police, they know this.
But Charlie, this isn't the first time. and
No, it
was
isn't.
Going on long before we've had staff
That's true.
changes.
That's-
So,
It's good time to get their act together.
Yeah.
Good.
And I know we have the council behind us, and I know the
Oh,
town
no, I
manager is
know that.
behind us, so
Regardless of that, there's.
we need to just start putting the
Their
pressure
job.
on them.
Well, yeah, it's doing their job.
Yeah. Are there any new
in the-
curb cuts?
No.
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 Okay.
The only thing usually that the major concern is impervious surface, which is one. You're also, well, like your drainage calculations, and your circulation around the building, the fire especially, because and the location of hydrants and other structures that may be impeding their access or their use to get at the building.
Well, that's what I mean. If they're not making any new curb cuts, then, I mean, they're not changing any of the hydrants that are out at the road or,
I have
you
no
know,
idea if it
traffic.
needs
So
to
it,
be.
right, so it shouldn't change the police, it shouldn't change engineering or fire. And since they
Well,
didn't
their
make
parking
comments,
design may not be up to what they want.
well, since they didn't make comments, we have to assume that it's okay.
Yeah. Yes,
So
Nick.
on the right side of the plan, which would be to the east side of the building, currently there's a chain link fence.
Right.
Would that, no, not the one along the property, but one that is between the building and
here?
the property line?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that going to remain, or does it stay open, or what happens with that?
Well, it really depends, I'm sorry. You know, right now, that fence is left open 24 hours a day. We never close it. I mean, it's, since I've been there, and it's been 10 years now, we've never closed that fence, never locked the fence. It was there when we got there. You know, so at that point in time, I guess we could probably take it down
Is
and
the
make it
width
easier
enough for
for
the
us.
trucks to get through?
Yeah, that's the purpose of my question. We're talking about traffic flow for the fire trucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, a fire truck can get through, but I think it was installed by a previous owner, and the reality is it doesn't actually enclose anything because there's no gate on the other side. So you know, all you have to do is go around the other side of the building, and so it doesn't really serve a
that's
purpose that I can see. And the applicant's saying he's not using it.
So is it gonna remain?
You know, it doesn't matter. We could
It
take
don't matter to, no, it doesn't matter to me. I don't know about
No,
Nick,
yeah,
but-
right.
Question is, how big a hassle would it be to just pull it out of there and call it a day?
Not too big of a hassle. We cut that out pretty fast, but you know, we really don't ever use it, so there's no reason for it. I got there, it was there, so we just left it. We always left it open, and it's never been locked or closed.
Perhaps at one time it was closed in. I don't know, and then they removed part of the fence and never removed that portion. I'm not sure what the reason for it would be. So.
Kenny, could we, just to cover ourselves, and then it puts a lot on Rich, is to put in there that staff okays these reviews he's coming in, or Rich does, and from engineering and so forth.
Yes, in terms of, we can add that as a site-specific condition that all the, departments definitely approve or don't have.
Thing is, if they haven't sent it in by now, they're probably not going to.
Right.
Right.
What-
Well,
that's tough.
So what if they take another 6 months to review it?
No.
No, it'll be approved, but.
No, we would give the approval.
Subject to, with a condition
Yeah.
that engineer signs off. Engineers had 4 months to sign off. Charlie's
No,
right.
he's
What if,
not signing off, that they put their recommendation in in writing.
Signing off.
Oh, all right. I
Right,
see,
it's
yeah.
signing off.
Has signed off.
Does
Staff has
engineering sign off on the
indicated it. I've
building
indicated it,
permit?
Testified, we have spoken with the town
All
engineer.
right, I
so-
guess.
If we don't start pushing back on these departments,
I know that.
Yes.
you know
We had
what?
to before.
And I don't want to say it, shit or get off the pot.
Yeah.
You know, you want to say on this, do it.
Yeah, you're right.
They also can review at the building permit level. They have to sign off on it before they
Yeah,
can
that's
start
what they
construction
keep
over
telling
there.
us, but then they want us to enforce it. And the only way, when if we end up in court, that you can do anything is when it's down here.
Site plan, yeah.
We certainly wouldn't want it held up on the building permit side. So I agree totally with Kenny on this one and Charlie on this one. We need to have a better flow. If we get everything, all the comments and all the stuff from the applicant, which we've had, then we can make an informed decision.
Yeah, well, yeah.
But when we're flying blind, it
Yeah.
reflects on us poorly.
Well, let's take that after this, and under discussions later, and continue with this. We can't do
Lori's
anything
got her
about
under
it.
control now anyway. She's going to deal with it.
Yeah, so we could talk about this process, perhaps outside of the hearing.
That's what I'm saying. We're
Yeah,
doing, that's what I just said. Let's
We've
move
got some
forward.
plans to fix some of this, and just for your assuredness, the town engineer did review this for wetlands and did say that he had.
That doesn't
no
help
issue.
us. We don't have
Well,
any,
because nothing changed. So from a wetlands perspective, from a drainage perspective, that's what they're reviewing it, and.
all right, let's please go on.
Sure. So I mentioned the showrooms being updated, and it'll be just under 13,000 square feet, so it's an increase from the existing showroom. The service is being increased by 8,500 square feet. The number of parking spaces on the site, because of the addition, we are losing some parking spaces. We had 100, we're down to 78 spaces, but that complies with the regulations, which bases it on the square footage of the building, plus the amount of outside display area. So we're indicating on here, I know that's been an enforcement issue in the past with car dealerships, and so we're indicating on here both the square footage and the vehicle count, because it's hard, you can't enforce a square footage very easily, but you can count vehicles if you need to. So there are 242 display spaces on this plan, 78 parking, 242 display, and so and that's been achieved by the expansion to the back, as well as some parking up near the building that is remaining. We are proposing a new detention basin to take runoff from this increase in pavement. Goes into the basin, it's detained, and then goes out to Cranbrook. And we have on page 7 of the plans a post-construction maintenance schedule. It documents that the applicant is responsible for maintaining this basin. That includes vacuuming out the sumps that may have an oil sheen in them, removing sediment from the sumps, and inspecting and maintaining the stormwater basin to make sure that it's not clogging, that it's operating.
I notice now you have one that's clogged, or you mentioned that. Who's responsible for?
Oh, you mean out in Cranbrook?
Yeah,
There's the catch basin. That's a town catch basin. So I did speak with John Cabibbo about it. He said that they will in their normal they have a schedule that they in going around to do all these. They will vacuum it out. But if they don't do it before the time that we go to tie it in, we'll do it. We'll clean it out.
Okay, so it's not yours, it's
a town's catch basin.
okay.
They clean
Who's
it
Who's
every
going to
year.
be responsible for checking those? I know you have it on your plans, it'll be checked so often, I think twice a year, and swept twice a year. Who's going to be responsible for that?
The one out in Cranbrook?
No, on your property.
Oh, the applicant's responsible. Enfield.
An individual,
Family
though?
Ford. What's that?
It's best to have an individual.
Right, that's spelled out in the stormwater plan. I believe it's Chris, right?
Yes.
Chris
I think so,
Sarah.
Okay.
Chris is not here tonight, but he's the,
No, I know. I assumed that it was, it just,
Right here, it's daily manager. Yep.
okay.
So, the site, we're not proposing any changes to site lighting or to landscaping. The sites are already well lit, and really, this is just an infill working. There's a little expansion in the back, but we're not adding any more lighting to the back this time. Just building lights as there are currently on the site.
There's going to be one in the front, though, right? The new one.
What's that?
Putting a new pole in the front, light pole.
No, we're not putting a new light pole in the
Your
front.
print says you are.
Oh, it does?
Yes.
We're
In front by the displays. There's one there now, and you're going to put a second one in.
It's been a little while
Up
since
toward the
I've-
front somewhere.
No, we're relocating it. Sorry, this one here.
Yes.
Yeah, we're relocating it. So
It says new light, that's what.
it says relocated light pole. So what's happening is this one here, in order for the traffic to get around the building, that pole's in the way. So it's got to be moved.
Oh, okay.
So we're moving it. We're flipping it from here, putting it over on the other
Well,
side.
now you know we read your prints anyways.
Yes. Good to know.
But Dana, it said proposed light pole, that's why.
Oh yeah, which page?
On 4 of 8, just if you look at the legend.
Oh, okay. It says it on the legend. Yeah.
So that was.
Yeah, it's
actually
proposed
relocated.
in the sense that it wasn't there now, so it's being moved. So
Okay. Anyway, we do read them.
very good. And then I guess lastly, mentioned we're going to be doing some changes to the facade of the building, and we did submit architectural elevations with this application. And I believe Eric brought with him some samples of the colors for that. It's going to be a gray building. We also submitted a photo in your application. You want to go to that's the floor plan, yeah.
Where do you spread that out to work on? I hold them in my lap sometimes in a chair.
Thought I had it in there.
Do you?
A picture of the front of the building?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's on our,
I think it's in your sets. I must have,
Is it in here? On the couch.
Is that what you're?
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
Go ahead, take it.
So I will be providing to the committee these sample chips. And just to back up a little bit, as with many national brands, they have their prototypical building facades. And Ford is currently in the process of rebranding all of its Ford facilities. Mr. Sarrett has an operation up in Agawam that he
Right.
recently redid, and this will be very similar to that. So the facade were these rectangles, and this is a tower. That would be this product here, and it's labeled MP1 on the product. And it's a silver appearance. It's
I
an
built
aluminum
one of
product. Above this facade, this is actually the second floor, which is set back from the front of the building. It's back 34 feet. So really, what you see here is not typically visible from the street because it's 34 feet back from the facade. This band underneath the silver and the front of the service reception
No, I'm
drive
saying with the sun hitting that.
is this gray color, MP2. And then MP3, oh, I misspoke. MP2 is the band underneath, which is the gray. MP3, IMP3 which is the service facade, is a very similar gray color.
They are, yeah.
No flame red.
And just again about the experience that the rebranding does is the identity feature, which is now typical to all the Ford improvements. They're very specific about the dimension of this part of the facade, the specific dimensions of the glass, and for this part. As part of the customer experience, at this end of the building will be a new car delivery area. So when you purchase your vehicle, the sales staff will introduce you to your vehicle inside of the building and show you the features before you leave. When you're coming for service work, you will enter a service reception drive so that before you exit your vehicle, you're indoors and you get out of your vehicle. So in inclement weather or all types of weather, improved experience when you go to see the technicians.
This.
Is this, the tower in the center, is that going to be with a radius, a curve to it?
So if you look at this elevation.
Yeah, okay, there it is.
Very,
Yep.
very slight. It's slightly
I was
tilted.
involved in the construction of the showroom in Berlin on the Ford dealership, and
Yeah,
we
so-
built that.
Yeah, and from Ford's perspective, these towers are all standardized. They only come, but they do come in different heights.
Yeah.
And this is one of the lower heights, 24 feet. The front facade itself is, I'm not seeing the dimension, I'm gonna say 20 feet. So it's a 20-foot facade on the showroom. It says here.
Yep.
Yeah, Dodge wanted the towers, remember?
If you have any other questions as far as the building construction, I'd be glad to answer those.
Pretty modern building.
It is.
I mean, the newer, if you look at the newer dealerships throughout, Connecticut and Mass, they're pretty appealing.
They are,
Yeah.
they are.
Because I have one question regarding the elevator shaft, in terms of it extends above the elevation of the roof. Is that going to get insulated? Is that going to get some kind of a cladding so that it's not just,
So again.
block or something?
So to answer your question, is it proposed to have a cladding? No, it would be a block. It would be painted to be similar in color. And it's deceiving when you look at it in flat paper because it is set so far back from the leading edge of the second floor. Here's the showroom. Here's the showroom of 32 feet. Make sure I have my dimensions correct here. This actually shows it better. The showroom is 32 feet, and then there's probably another 30 some odd feet before you get to the elevator shaft. So it's roughly 60 feet back on the roof of the building. So I'm quite confident it will not be visible. We just finished a store like this. You don't see anything on the roof because they're either behind the facade, behind the tower, or so far set back from the front edge.
Is it going to be a thermal problem, like in the wintertime, if it's just plain block?
Well, I can't speak to the insulation part of it because I don't have those architectural aspects, but it has to have a fire rating. That's why it's block. And
I don't care if it gets cold.
right, well, no, but this is, for an elevator shaft, this is a very standard type of construction design. They're usually a masonry shaft, and they also have to have a louver on the top of it, which has to do with, again, I'm assuming
Suction and
fire
wear.
and things like that. Any other
Further
building-related
questions
questions?
down there? Anybody else with questions? Wow. You're done?
You can leave them there. We're good.
Anyone in the audience who would like to speak in favor or against this application? Anyone in the audience who would like to speak in favor or against the application?
Mr. Chairman, I would just want to add one piece of information because there was discussion about the wetlands
Okay.
application. A wetlands permit has been issued by the...
Oh, yes,
It's on
right,
your-
absolutely, we
Okay.
know
Yeah,
that.
It's on
Thank you,
your
sir.
second page.
So we got a copy of that.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, we know that. Last call, anyone in the audience speak in favor or against?
Okay, Mr. Chair, I just had, I was reading the staff report, and one of them, they had indicated landscaping in terms of, are there going to be any landscaping things that are going to be going on, or?
Yes, we were just talking about, so in the, I was just reading through the conditions of approval that talk about landscaping requirements. And so, no, we didn't propose any additional landscaping. This is an existing site, and we're basically keeping it the same. But if they want some landscaping, we'll put in what they.
I mean, that would be part of our plan anyway. So certainly, I mean, we're looking to build a beautiful building.
I know, you sure are.
That represents us for the town, and also at the same time to certainly, make our customer experience better, but also at the same time make our employees a better place to work, and certainly so to beautify it is what we're trying to do. And I think you'll be very proud of it. I think I can tell you we've certainly I built just recently 2 buildings in Agawam, and the comments I get from the community in Agawam after what we did and improved and everything else, certainly we want it to look right.
How about if you put in something on, in consultation with staff for that?
Yeah, I think the conditions as they're worded allow staff to be able to enforce that and.
Well, not enforce, that they can work with you and allow it, so that you don't have to come back and go through us. It's just.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
So,
Make that part of the.
Yeah, well, I guess.
The landscaping.
It's already said consistent with section 10.7, so.
So if I
Again-
may, Mr.
Well,
Chairman,
All right. Then again, let's ask.
if I may, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
similar to what Mr. Sarrett did in Agawam, there is the opportunity to add plantings along the front of the showroom between the paved area and the front of the building. And this is very typical with what Mr. Sarrett did in Agawam.
Well, that's why I just say it. All we do, and you can work it out with the administration. Oh, boy. You don't have to get mad at us now.
So staff did write or propose site-specific conditions for this application. They're conditions 9 through 16 on what you received. So that part of the conditions do include landscaping standards consistent with section 10.20.
But I didn't, when I read that, I don't know with a tight situation and with their car parking, if they have room to do specific with that.
Right. So basically this is an existing facility, so if you want to make them put in a landscaping plan consistent with that section, it would be a more robust landscaping plan, including trees along the streets and things like that. So
Yeah, they couldn't do that.
Okay,
Well, you're going to have
so.
sightline obstruction and everything.
Oh, yeah,
trying to-
that's why I'm saying, to just
Right.
work with you.
And
on
we're not
what
the
would be
Conservation
acceptable.
Commission, we're planning and zoning, so.
Yeah.
But it's
All right.
written in your regulation, so if you want to change that, we can change the condition of approval to read something different so that they're not complete, they don't have to comply with every single thing.
Just to meet the approval of staff.
Okay. There are a few
And
other
whichever
conditions
one
as
of you
well.
is picked out, it could be you or Lori or whoever wants to go out and plant bushes or agree to it, I guess.
So,
Gonna plan them for us?
But,
a few other conditions I think are worth going over include, there's a shed shown on the plans. In your regulations, it reads that sheds are accessory buildings which must be behind the rear line of the building. So we included that as a site-specific condition. Is the shed already there?
Yes.
It's
Yeah,
already
an existing
existing,
shed.
okay.
Yeah, because
We didn't
you're
put it
using the
there.
shed for antifreeze or,
It's got salt in it.
Okay.
all right.
Yeah.
Not antifreeze, you're using it for windshield washer or something that look.
Okay.
for
So,
de-icing.
yeah, that's sodium, yeah.
Okay.
And you're not
So-
moving it or anything, it's
Right.
staying right
We're
where
proposing to move it.
No.
So if
it's existing.
And if
existing,
you
not
come in
non-conforming.
for a new one, then we'd have the discussion about where it would go. But right now, it's been there forever, so you're
It'll stay.
grandfathered, for lack of
So-
a better way of saying it.
We'll take that proposed one out. We noticed that there's parking along the east side of the new building, a new addition, that's right up against the building. Now, that
Yeah,
is
that's
something.
why I asked about fire department, I saw that.
Your regulations state that there needs to be 10 feet of landscaping between the building and the parking, which is not something that actually can be waived without going to Zoning Board of Appeals. Now, we suggested just moving the parking away from the building a little bit and landscaping it, if they are agreeable to that.
Have you got room enough to
I
do
don't think
it?
there's room to do it.
Yeah, but you're gonna need,
Thank you.
yeah, yeah. I don't know, you got a room.
The question, I guess, is, you have those spots by the building. How many, are those for employees, those parking spots, or are those just for cars that are being dropped off to be repaired?
The spots,
It doesn't designate specifically, but do you have,
I'm just asking because those are just parking spots, so if I'm a customer and I'm dropping my car off in the morning and going to work, coming back at 5 o'clock to pick up my car.
It's on the left side of the building.
Right, but I'm just saying is.
Could be people,
when
customers.
I drop it off, you're gonna bring it around
Yeah.
because you're not gonna pull it right into the bay right at
But
8
it could be
o'clock.
customers get it
Do
for
you
the
know what I'm
parts.
saying? What is
What
those
we're
spots?
constructing is first of all, on the left side of the building is going to be the service drive.
Right,
So you drive into the building, get out of your car, into the service write-up area, we write
Right.
you up, write up the repair order, and then we have a porter who will take the car and disappear with it behind
Right.
the building and park it in the spots to the rear of the building.
so those are on that right side, along the back of the building and along
To
the
the,
side?
to the rear of the building.
Right, okay, that's what I'm trying to ask. Where is the employee parking? Where's the cars that are being serviced parking
So,
So-
The service
the
parking
cars
and
here be-
employee parking would be behind the building.
behind the building? And those cars right
right
there along the building?
that would be a combination of either vehicles for service and/or employees.
All right, thank you. That's what I was trying to figure out because, I drop it off, could need just an oil change and tire change.
You won't see it again.
Disappears. The car disappears.
Disappears. As long as it's fixed when it reappears, I don't care.
so the aisle on this side is about 30 feet, whereas the regulations require 24, so that there is about 6 feet of extra space. We could push it out 6, but the regulations say 10 feet, so
Right.
we're a little shy there. So if we had to meet the 10-foot, then we would lose some of these spaces. We'd have to lose
Well,
some of them.
couldn't you get a variance for that? I mean, it's.
I don't know.
One thing that staff looked into too is you can actually angle the parking spots, which would require a smaller driving aisle, which would allow you to meet that requirement.
One thing, if I may point out, if you look at the site plan, there's 4 dashed lines at the back of the existing service garage. Those are overhead doors to access straight in to that existing service garage. That's the reason that we're trying to maintain traffic flow to keep these doors active.
Right, but we could put an island in here, it's just it would push it over so far that,
But
It-
it
it-
may
it's not
start to
enough
obstruct the use of those doors.
Well,
So that was.
Jen had a good idea about the angling of the parking, then you wouldn't need anything, right?
Right.
Need
You
anything?
can angle, you can angle the parking.
we could angle it, but then it would have to be one way.
Right.
Right, we'd have to make it one way rather than two way.
Okay,
That's a possibility.
I didn't realize that.
The other option is that we take these spaces out entirely and put them in here and lose some display spaces. So we have the flexibility to be able to adjust that if we need to in order, because if I remove them, then I don't have the required 78 spaces. So that's the problem with just.
Is there a
eliminating.
spot to put big planters with flowers in them? You know, they,
Well, like I said, we could provide about a 5 or 6 foot
Yeah.
strip, but the 10 feet is not achievable with keeping those spaces, so.
I know.
You need it, though.
To be
Can't see it from the-
qualification.
Because of
Yeah,
the,
you
uh,
can't see it from the street or
I
anything.
know, that's.
It's
to
the
me-
regulations.
That's
It
like putting
says what
artwork
you
up and
need.
nobody goes by there.
Right.
Yeah, but Charlie Ladd, it's in the regulations, as Jen pointed out,
Right.
and you can't just say, well, nobody's going to see it, so we don't care. Either we have to find a happy medium, or they're going to need a variance, and that shouldn't be a problem, but that's not our call.
We'll modify it to conform with the regulations.
I'm sure that Dana will work with everyone and make sure that
Whether
we have
go
the best.
angled parking route or we relocate them to the
Right.
back. We'll do what we have to comply
Okay.
with that.
Go to a variance, it'd be
So that,
easier for
I think that condition could stay. I think it needs to stay because of the you can't modify your regulation.
Well, you go to a variance.
That's what I'm saying.
Wouldn't the variance be better for you, though?
We want to work with you.
They're under time. They've been tied up for 4 months with us.
Okay.
That could take a while.
Oh, I
And there's-
don't think we should hold them up, but I think that there should be some kind of a consultation with staff and Dana or whoever, and, you know, figure out the best way to manage the situation.
That's what he said he would do. Leave
Yeah.
leave
I
it
know.
in.
Yeah.
He's good to
Yep.
go with it.
All right, yeah.
Perfect.
And
I don't have
along
a
those
problem with
lines,
that.
thinking about the angled parking, staff threw in a traffic circulation plan, only because it would have to be a one-way drive aisle, so.
So arrows pointing which direction.
Right.
Yeah, we'll
That
add
would be,
too.
okay. And then the loading area, so where would the car carriers be dropping off cars on the site?
Yep.
Just
Good point.
show it on there.
Sure.
And there was the detail about the new lighting and the existing lighting. You said that they're not actually adding new lighting,
Right.
so.
We're not adding new lighting. We're just relocating the
Relocating
existing
them.
lighting.
So, I don't know if you want to keep that in there for the old lighting, that you want the detail for that on the plans, or if you're okay with.
They're going to have to provide a base anyway, so, basically, you're going to have the detail, so that, we'll call that the detail.
Sure, we can add a light pole detail.
Right, so you're going to need a lipo base, so, it's a
Okay.
new base, so that would be consistent with.
It's existing lighting if they don't change anything.
And the other item that, the other items that we noticed were
Bless you.
we suggested were possibly painting the display boxes to show where the cars need to be displayed on the site.
The existing ones are painted, and so we're modifying them, so yeah, they'll be painted, so we agree.
So you wouldn't have any more vehicles with the lifts on the grassy area?
Vehicles with the lifts?
The drive
You know how
up,
they
like they
sit,
drive
they
the
drive
truck
up, they
on
look
the-
lovely, but,
They're up on, yeah.
I mean, they're actually not on the grass, they're on the pavement.
oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
they're on the pavement.
How they do it. So they-
And they look good with a nice F-250 on them up there, a nice diesel.
Street.
They look,
Okay, you got it all, Jen? Is that it?
Yep.
Anything else?
And we thought about wheel stops are usually required for parking along the building, but it sounds like we're going to have to work that out with.
We're gonna be, yeah, we
With
can
Dana
show them
anyway,
on this
so-
side where it's existing,
Well,
but,
that's a fire
Right,
department,
so,
and it's just-
If you want to put that in there, you can. If you want to just work out have us just work out the whole parking schedule, we can do that.
yeah, I think it's already covered in the
Later, that's.
Okay.
conditions we have.
Do we want to replace condition number 9, the location of the accessory building with the gate is to be removed at the east side
Yeah,
of
she
the building?
suggested removing
Right.
that one.
So this way, we'll
We're
keep the
okay
same,
with it.
we'll keep the same number of conditions by eliminating the accessory and substituting the removal of the gate.
The removal of the gate, okay.
know.
You want the gate removed? That's what,
Really don't care, just would be easier, if,
He's
you know,
trying to
for you
keep the
guys if
numbering
it was gone properly.
steady, right?
System even.
I don't think we need to require it's gone.
Okay,
Other than that, that's all we have, so
that's all you set?
that's it.
And you're set with all the conditions and everything then? And let's see where I've called for everything. Let me go back through asking, you're all done. I just want to find out where we're at now, because a lot's gone on back and forth. You're all set. All right, anyone in the audience to speak in favor or against? Anyone in the audience to speak in favor or against? Last call to speak in favor or against? Shall I close it?
Yep.
Okay, well then we'll close, what is it, SPR? I'm sorry, public hearing 2925.
Okay.
We're closed. And you got everything straight?
I think so.
don't know how you did.
In terms of, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we approve public hearing 2925, 65 Hazard Avenue, Family Ford of Enfield, in accordance with the draft resolution dated September 20th, 2018, with the 34 conditions, and we are replacing condition number 9 with the location. We are not going to be requiring anything to be done with the accessory building, but we're going to remove the gate that was adjacent to the accessory building to allow better circulation for fire trucks or whatever. And the other site specifics will be consistent with the requirements of the regulations in the staff review, so that, we need to follow the regulations, but also we have some discretion as to, what actually, makes sense for, the existing conditions that are there right now.
For landscaping specifically, the number.
That's what we're
the
talking
number
about.
of
And,
plants.
the parking and everything else.
We can't do the parking, though. We can't, well, they're revising it.
Right, they're gonna revise it, but it won't be the same location that we have there right now, possibly.
Correct.
So.
Second.
Okay. Okay. And motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion?
I think it's great they want to expand their business and stay in Enfield, and we're appreciative of it. And I think that they've worked with us and done everything that's been asked of them. And Dana's been very patient, so I will be voting for this because I think it's a great plus to the community.
I was going to compliment the Sarah group for really expanding and selecting this town to do that in. They've been a good, I was going to say neighbor or
Partner.
business in town, and this really, it's great that they have thought that much to expand here. And it's a great improvement to also Hazard Avenue, to Hazard Avenue. And may encourage others over there to do the same. So yes, I will be too. And I compliment Dana and the people that prepared the information, because that was very thorough.
Ready for a vote?
So if you're ready for a vote, all in favor? Oh, look at that, it's unanimous.
Thank you.
Any
Thank you.
opposed? And no abstentions. Good job.
So we'll stick around for one more round.
The flood.
It's like
if you are-
Groundhog Day over and over and over.
Okay,
Did you bring a sandwich, Dana?
I call public hearing 2926. I'm sorry, no, it's not that, I'm sorry,
You're right. 20.
yeah, all right. Tonight, 2926 Hazard Avenue. I have a request, anybody in the audience here to hear this particular hearing? There isn't, I won't open it then. Public hearing 2926, I hereby request the Enfield Planning and Zoning Commission, Inland Wetlands Commission, and it has all of them. This is our district commission, were they all meeting tonight? Or zoning board of appeals granted extension of statutory time to complete the public hearing. they want an application to extend.
That's a standard form in the office that we ask people to fill out for extensions. They still have time to open their public hearing. You have all the way until November
Okay,
10th to
anyhow,
open
They
it.
don't want it opened.
So-
Until October 4th, 2018.
Yeah, they would like it postponed until then.
So moved.
Motion's made and seconded. Discussion, hearing none. All in favor? Good, okay. Boy, that was a fast. So, site plan review, any old business? No. New business, FLD 038. The applicant here?
They are.
Yes. Hello.
Dana, wake up.
We're back up again.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Again, for the record, Dana Steele from J.R. Russo and Associates. In part of this application, we are proposing a building addition in the back of this site that encroaches into the existing flood zone. This portion of town is subject to flooding associated with Freshwater Brook, which runs through the mall. You're probably all aware that Cranbrook floods sometimes. You've seen it. I've seen it when you can't pass through because it's slow.
Right.
And so this area does flood, and a detailed study has been done by FEMA. So sometimes when you have a flood map, you just have a general flood area, but a detailed study hasn't been done, so you don't know the exact elevation of the flood. Here, a detailed study has been done, probably in part because all the impacts to this area. So we know the exact elevation of the flood zone, and that's depicted by this yellow line on the plan. So this back portion of the back half of the property is in the 100-year flood zone. So any fill that we do within that 100-year flood zone has a negative impact on flooding because water that would be stored there now gets displaced and has to go somewhere else and flood someone else's property. So it's critical that we not decrease the flood storage capacity in this area. Even though the amount that this affected by this particular site is not significant, it wouldn't have any type of significant impact. I think that the theory goes that if you let one guy do a little bit of increase, and after a while, all those little increases add up to a lot of increase, and it could make a difference. So we need to demonstrate that we're not increasing flooding, that we're not decreasing flood storage. And so the proposed grading plan, sheet 5, shows with this addition, we're going to be changing the flood limits to wrap around this building. So within this area here, we're using up flood storage. So that's bad, and so we have to compensate for that by excavating and increasing flood storage in the rest of the site. So we used a computer program to determine an exact calculation of the cuts and the fills, and we have a report at the end of the drainage report that summarizes that. There's 600 cubic yards of fill being added in this area, and then 625 cubic yards of cut. So the net result is 25 cubic yards of additional storage capacity in the flood zone. So we're not going to be negatively impacting the flood zone. And again, the town engineer reviewed that and was satisfied with our calculations.
Questions?
I don't have a question, but I have a statement. The staff report was super. It helped me better understand what I should be looking at, and I loved all the highlighted things, and whoever did it did a great job. You even told me where to go look. Well, thank you, Raquel.
Anyone else?
Pretty
Okay.
straightforward.
Anyone in the audience would like to speak in favor or against? Anyone else in the audience would speak in favor or against? Last call to speak in favor or against. I'll close, where am I? FLD 038.
gotta find it. Wait a minute, hang on. Don't be-
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we approve FLD number 3835 Hazard Avenue Family Ford of Enfield, according to the draft. 65. Yeah. Oh, 65 Hazard Avenue. It dated, the staff resolution dated September 20th, 2018, with the 21 conditions that were stated in that resolution.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Discussion?
Pretty straightforward.
Yep.
I just want to say the applicant, the presentation was phenomenal. Again, second meeting, 2 meetings, 2 great applicants. Hopefully people watching see how it's done and how easy it is to get through the process. Well, once you get here anyways.
Well, even as was said, the staff reports are great too.
Absolutely. Yep.
That helps.
And I want to thank you for making the investment in Enfield.
Absolutely, it's great. Well, let's close out the Sarah business.
We got to vote.
Yeah, I know, that's why I said, let's go with a vote. All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? It's unanimous. And
Thank you.
thank you for all your work and your investment in the
Thank you,
town.
everybody.
Yeah.
I hope the weather holds so you can build it.
That's right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and members of the board.
Okay, what else?
Oh, they are.
We've seen her before.
I don't know, is she an applicant or
Bill, the developer.
the individual? No, maybe she's with somebody. Ma'am, do you have anything? No? No. Okay. I was gonna say, this, Sarah's have been in Agawam for quite a while. My wife's an Agawam girl, and that was one of the things. Yeah, I was gonna say that, yeah.
So are they all family Ford now, or is there still a Sarah Ford?
No, the Sarah Ford is in Agawam. It's
Okay.
Sarah.
Sarah Lincoln and Agawam. And then we have Family Ford of Enfield down here.
Okay.
Actually, we have Ford of Northampton also, Northampton, Mass.
Oh, I didn't know that. I'd always heard of Sarah Ford over there in Agawam, Feeding Hills.
So it's going to be such a gorgeous building, you have to have public tours.
He picked the young construction company. We've only got 72 years.
You wouldn't be so gray if you were selling Dodges.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any correspondence? Commissioners' correspondence? Well, we actually had it, yes.
I just forwarded Jen something that the town of Manchester is doing on their main street. Fortunately for Manchester, they do have street parking, and there's lots of street parking on their main street, but they're actually cording off 3 parking places and using it as a cafe, an outdoor cafe for seating. They're just something that they're trying right now. And I thought it was an interesting idea, so I kind of forwarded the information to Jen and asked her to send it out to everyone.
I
and
did.
she
I
probably-
apologize. I meant to print it out and copy
No,
it for everyone.
It's okay.
But I'll
You got
forward it
things
to you
do.
all.
Hey. But it's just showing that they're thinking outside the box, and I think we, as a town, need to start doing that too.
And that's how they keep their Main Street vibrant. They have art shows from local people. They have a whole bunch of stuff going on.
Well, they also have their community college.
Manchester in there.
Has a storefront there for their students to display art and to do some work study there too. It's like a shared workspace, I think it's called, and they get to go in and do office work and things like that. So they really are incorporating the whole town into their main street. It's kind of nice.
Well, they had, and I don't know why, but they used to have the farmer's market down along the
They still do.
street. Yeah, but no, they moved it up in the parking lot up here on the green.
That's where it started out.
But it started down below, and that's when they had all the displays.
Courtney and Peter moved it down below.
Right, but it was down there, and they had other displays down through there. They allowed, it wasn't just a farmer's market. They had a band playing, and they had displays, people.
and Faith the
They had
Goat.
an attorney came down. I mean, they had other things. And that's what that was that type of thing that they had going down there. But then they moved the farmer's market strictly up here, and I don't think those brought up the rest of it. But I don't know, but that was an object to get people to get downtown too. They had them spread all along the brook. Okay, anyone else?
Do we have any control over sidewalks or anything in town?
Well,
And-
we were going to sit down with them because our regulations don't go with the town regulations that the
Or at least they're
the street department or whatever puts out. And I asked for a meeting with the people on, I guess the council has a committee that takes care of that because our sidewalks.
Public Works.
Yeah, but they don't want to meet with us because we have to reconcile their regulations with our regulations because they're totally opposite.
Well, I just don't, the reason I'm asking is the town of Enfield spent a ton of money putting all those brick sidewalks in Hazardville.
Yeah.
And they just ripped out all the intersections to put the wheelchair accessible blind thing,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
bumps, and they did it out of just straight concrete. So you got these beautiful brick running into concrete, and they do make the brick stones, the bricks with the, I'm gonna call them knobs on them
Yeah.
for the blind people.
Yep.
And it should have been done that way, and it looks horrendous. So
Oh, they did.
when you drive down Hazard Avenue, look at
I
it.
haven't been out there, yeah.
You know, where North Maple and Hazard Avenue cross, right by the Institute.
Yeah. They
You
spent a
know
lot
what
of
I'm
money
talking
on
about,
that.
Rich. You agree? It
Yeah,
looks
yeah,
horrible.
I do. I looked at that. I did look at that, and I just shook my head, but I never thought that,
Well,
and we should be involved.
Absolutely, we
That's
should
our
be.
engineering.
Correct.
Or whoever, I mean, that's the highway department or whoever is over
Well, I don't think anybody came in front of us to,
No, they
somebody
don't.
approved all those sidewalks to be brick, and
Well, it's like the town
Council did.
manager pulled out, our project is that we have a developer is to put in a sidewalk and then eventually we'll connect it. Go over on Hazard Avenue, we had a whole strip and it's pulled out, it's now grass. So even if we get a neighbor next door to it, which supposedly we had coming in, and he comes and we say, put a sidewalk in, well, that's even gonna be, not gonna go anywhere either, because we used to jump along.
our subdivision I live in, I have sidewalks that go to nowhere, but the goal is to, every developer puts in their share, the town's only got to connect them. It may be 100 years, but believe it or not, people walk around those sidewalks to nowhere.
Yeah, well, instead of repairing it, they pulled them out because it was gonna cost the town money to repair it. It was cheaper for them to go in and pull it out. So now we have no sidewalks there, and we weren't gonna get them.
But if we have the authority, I'd like to, start putting the legwork forward to fix those sidewalks in Hazardville. We spent a ton of money putting all that brick in.
Well, I was part of putting that in, and one of the reasons we went with that was like West Hartford does it with everything, because it lowered their insurance rates for falling and stuff.
What are you talking
Because when the frost heaves, they come up together and go down together. They don't leave this. So you look in West Hartford, all their new sidewalks are pavers.
No, I agree.
Well,
but-
he said, yeah, but he's talking about,
I know, but that's why we even went with that. That was part of the Hasville Revite project years
That's right.
back. And,
well, so weren't the benches, and the benches ended that down here at the,
Yeah.
at the Red Brook.
well, the town does what they want to do after you spend the money.
Well, they put it out to bid, right, Ken? So
I don't know.
I think
don't
that
know.
they
I mean, it's
probably-
possible the town did it themselves, but
no, I don't
I'm
think
sure they did
so.
if
I
they
think
pulled
they
it
had
out.
a contractor
Because the
come
other
in.
thing they do is paint on them and to mark things, and you have to replace the brick after you do that because it doesn't come off.
it's just,
So if you have pavers, you're not supposed to paint on them either,
Any
but they do
suggestions
it.
from,
do we have any control over that? I mean, suppose one of, a couple areas of brick sink, are they just gonna cut it out and pour concrete there?
Probably,
Well, if they're put in right, they won't.
we
because-
used to have control over it.
But the town insisted on installing a lot of that themselves rather than having the contractors do it.
They've come in before because even to the degree when they used to change the roads and they curved them and they weren't, I said at the time, they're supposed to come in. Oh, no, we do, and they never did. And then all of a sudden they decided, yes, they did have to come in. Because they're making things different for the roads, but there's always disagreement on the planning, so I don't know what the answer is.
Perfect example, they've been in 20 years and nothing's had to be.
Mr. Chairman, I don't know what the answer is either at this time, but we'll certainly have a conversation with the Public Works Department and, see if in the future, or maybe, maybe they could fix things. I'm not sure who did it, whether it was consultant or.
It ruined the whole look down there.
If it was
If
part
we've
of,
got bricks there, it would behoove us to maintain that. I mean,
Yeah.
it takes a lot of money and effort to install those.
I was going to say, if it was part of an overall plan, which I think it was with the lights being a certain kind and the pavers being a certain kind,
There are benches in the
right? So
Trash barrels.
they should have at least mentioned it as a modification, because when you're supposed to be like to like, unless
Right,
it's
well,
otherwise.
what they're gonna say is they were trying to be compliant with, the ADA and the knobs on it. Well, they have bricks for that, and they match the pavers, and every other town does it, and
The other advantage of them is if you want to put a pipe under there, you just take it.
absolutely, Charlie, yep.
You don't have to re-pour it, you don't have to do anything.
All right, she'll look into it, and
Yeah,
thank you.
all right. Anything else?
And they've been there
That's a
20
good
years
one. I
now
see.
and haven't had to be replaced.
You got it, okay.
Have you seen it, Charlie?
No, I haven't been out there recently. The Charlie lives out there.
Go drive, no, he doesn't, not anymore,
Not
you know.
anymore, but he's close enough.
I don't live on School Street anymore.
Okay.
Is that a motion to
Great.
adjourn?
Now,
Oh.
One more thing. Town planner report, and that's also Lori.
I'm sorry, I'm not used to this. First thing is, we have set a public meeting for next Thursday for the River Gateway regulations. I'm working on getting a sign made. So far, I haven't hooked up with the gentleman in engineering, but I've spoken with him, and he said it will take him like half an hour, so hopefully I'll get it out there tomorrow, the two signs. So the people in Thompsonville will be aware of, in case they're not on digital media or, reading papers.
It
was in the paper tonight.
The last meeting we had, and they're gonna put a sandwich board out front like they do when they have different
Yeah.
things, so that people going down to downtown T-ville will hopefully see it.
Right. So we will be holding it here in the chambers at 7 o'clock next Thursday, the 27th. And it has been posted, as Jenny just alluded to, in the paper. I think we're
was
going
in
to put
tonight.
it on the website.
Yep, it is on the website, and I will email out the notice to you in your emails as well, so you have that.
Right.
And we do circulate it to the other land use commissions, so we'll do that as well.
And I promised that I would have the regulations for you, the latest and greatest regulations for you this evening, and we just did not get to that. So we will get them out tomorrow, and so they'll be distributed to you. You get the latest regulations, the latest financial analysis, and the map.
Those were sent out in your binders as well, and staff didn't take them out, but we're obviously going to send them out, as Lori
Yeah.
said
They're in
again. But
here?
Unless you say you
Right.
don't need them.
the latest date on everything should be June 29th, 2018. But we did distribute them after Francisco put together the final revisions back in June.
Let me see.
I wouldn't have a copy because I keep my stuff, so.
8 o'clock,
So you'll need to send me a.
7 o'clock?
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
Put me on
Yeah,
a
we're going to
copy so
send
I
it
can
out.
Come at 8,
place.
but we'll be done.
Thanks.
So don't come at 8.
Meeting is at 7?
7.
7.
We would have made it, I actually thought about
that's
making
fine.
it earlier, but
Oh.
the time is of
Oh,
the
yeah,
essence.
all right.
So just an explanation as to where we're at. OPM has required that we have the final draft,
Next Thursday.
meaning the regulations and the financial analysis as we are going to propose them for the public hearing by October 13th. We should subsequently have a public hearing to adopt the regulations as soon as possible after that. But we still needed to have at least one more meeting. We theoretically could have another just public meeting for discussion before the public hearing and before we send it to OPM on October 3rd. But I thought maybe we would just kind of feel it out as to what sort of a turnout we get on the 27th. And Francisco did say that he would be here for the public hearing, so that was good.
I know the residents has to be involved in that. They wanted at least one hearing where they knew what was going on before they even had a public meeting.
Well,
That's what
they're
next
doing.
week's meeting is. That's
Right.
exactly what it's for.
We're going to have 2, but that was the problem, that I said we hadn't heard the dates, and all of a sudden, we're up against the time limit.
Yeah. We're trying to play catch-up. I mean, I fully admit that, but hindsight's 20/20, so we're just trying to make sure that we get what we need done prior to the deadline. After October 13th, if there was any more billing or anything like that, we will not be able to put that into OPM through the grant. So once October 13th hits, that's it. The grant is done. So we're just trying to make sure that we meet all the requirements of that grant. And
So-
I would imagine that we would try to have the public hearing probably, I'm guessing probably second meeting in October is probably going to work the best. So,
And this report then is how many pages, Jen? It's 11?
Are you looking at the latest?
I don't know if I'm looking at the latest, that's why I'm asking.
Yes, you are.
June 29th should be the date?
6/29/18,
Yes.
and it only has like 11 pages and one map or 2?
Just one map.
I guess it's the same. Okay. Want to make sure, how about everybody else have these?
should we just make sure that we send them out tomorrow
We'll
with
send them out.
courier?
Yeah, I think you better anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, because I want to make sure
we
that you
got the
have
right
the
ones.
very latest and greatest.
That's why I asked, because I,
Right, okay.
all right, and I'd asked Lori to check them so that she knows them, and she's all set with them, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
And, Mr. Chairman, may I just take a few minutes to just ask a couple clarification questions with the
Absolutely.
commission? So I'm going to pass this out right
What
now.
time is it?
9:15.
Oh, wow.
We'll be quick.
Still got time for something?
Yeah, we got plenty of time.
King Street Overlay District.
Oh, yeah.
It talks about that you can have, yeah, I don't want to stop going here. So you can have a waiver of the yard and setback requirements. So I passed this out, and if you go to the second page, under F, okay, you guys are on, so I'm going to talk here. The commission may waive up to 50% of any required yard or setback. And my question to you is, when it says yard or setback, what is that referring to? So this is, and then the last page is the lot and bulk requirements.
It's got to be
So-
side yard and front yard.
Yeah, side yard.
Well,
setback.
so if you take out yard, you've got setback, and you've got front yard, side yard, floor area, rear yard.
Frontage would probably be.
And then if you take out the setback, it just talks about yard. So my question is, do you think that this was really trying to get bulk and area requirements? Because we're talking about a lot of non-conforming lots.
Oh, that's
as to
it, that's what it
building,
is, yeah.
Impervious coverage,
Right.
building coverage,
Yeah, we
So
are.
I'm kind of interpreting this as that the intent was probably like
Bulk.
the bulkhead area, not just yard and setback?
Yes.
The bulk
Yes.
area.
Okay.
That's my
I don't-
understanding.
Well, I got yeses over here.
Yes.
Well, we usually,
Well, that's not like Thompsonville yards, though. Those are big yards on King Street.
Well, I'm driving up and down and looking at the GIS, and there's a lot of non-conforming lots.
Yes.
oh,
The
they're all,
whole
yeah.
town
they're
is
all-
non-conforming.
That's the way it was back.
And I've had a couple different people come in talking about it, and I wasn't sure how to interpret that.
Because that was the original development was along that area, and they were odd lots.
Right.
Each one was different.
Exactly. So I just wanted to, I wanted to get the feel from the commission as to, was it just talking about setbacks or just the general bulkhead area?
I think it's a general area.
Yeah.
Maybe you
That would
could
be my interpretation.
may mark that as one of the changes for when we look at the regulations. Yeah.
That's exactly the type of things we
Thank
find.
you.
and
I don't
it's
agree
good.
with that.
Huh?
I don't
You
agree
don't?
with that. To me, I read it as it's the yard setback. If you're gonna cut 50% of the required yard,
But the setbacks
you're gonna take
are-
a 50 by 100 lot and now make it 25 by 50?
No.
No.
I think the
Wait,
intent
the
is that because there's so
10-foot
many.
side yard or the 20-foot
Right.
front yard or whatever.
Right,
you
but
can-
you're not alluding to yard
You can make it less.
or setback.
No.
Right. Just the setback.
Well, it says yard/setback,
See,
and
that's
that's
what
why
she's
it's
getting at.
ambiguous.
Yard
Right.
setback.
No, it should say yard setback, period. Forget the slash.
Yeah.
But it says yard, that's why I'm saying, I'm not sure which way it was supposed to be
Take the
going.
slash out.
Take the slash out is what I'm
Right,
saying.
eliminate the slash and it's just setbacks.
So, okay, so you're not talking about impervious coverage or building coverage?
No, you're just, how much
Because, I mean-
setback you allow in between the border and the structure.
Okay, so,
It's like we had it today.
Because the other thing is that those things sort of go hand in hand, which is why staff is bringing this up, is because when you are saying that you can reduce the yard, it sort of goes hand in hand with, well, you're allowing a reduction in yard, you're allowing an increase in impervious. So that's why we're sort of asking for your interpretation.
Well, I think
Exactly.
it's just the clearances between the property line and where some improvements are made. So instead of being 60 feet, it's 30 feet. So 50%, if we waive 50% of that setback, it goes from 60 feet to 30 feet. And I think that was, and I agree with Ken in terms of, that's what I envisioned it was sort of saying, because of the fact that they were non-conforming structures to begin with, and just because we pass some regulations doesn't mean that, they, shouldn't exist. Obviously they exist because of the grandfather clause, but, it's one of those kind of things to be more consistent. And if some buildings are up close and other buildings are back far, it might not look, consistently versus if everything's sort of aligned at a 30-foot distance rather than a 60-foot as indicated in the bulk storage, lot. So I think that's really what I thought you were saying, and I agree with Ken in terms of it should be yard setback without the slash.
okay, so, as Jen just alluded to, if you do that, it automatically, your impervious coverage and your building coverage
No. Basically, all we're doing is saying those two, columns that are in that, the lot and bulk requirements. The only thing that could possibly change is the setback from the front yard and the side yard, and possibly the rear yard, if depending on what's there. But all the other requirements stay the same. It doesn't say and floor area or impervious cover or building height. It doesn't say any of that. It just says yard setback.
was the
So whether it's the
setbacks.
front yard, the backyard, the side yard, we can modify that, but we can't we're not modifying any of the other bulk requirements.
Okay, and so the rest of the commission concurs with that?
Yes.
Lori, what did you take it to mean?
I wasn't sure, because if you take out yard, then what do you have? I mean, So, I mean,
they
so
meant
if you
the
take
yard.
out yard, you've got setbacks, and the only setbacks are front, side, rear.
That's what we're talking about.
But then if you take out, what is it? So if you take out setback, then you've got yards, or if you take out yard, then you only have setback. So very many times you could interpret the yard as the bulk areas. And there is a bulking area, it's lot bulking area. So it's just, I just didn't feel that it was clear. I thought perhaps it meant or implied that it was the entire lot and bulk requirements because there's so many nonconformities. And it says that you may go up to 50%, not that you have to. So I just thought that this was maybe the fix for all those nonconforming lots. But if it's just the side yards, front yard, rear yard, that's fine. I just need clarification one way or the other. And then we could make it clear in the future in the regulations either way.
You don't want to have a lot area going down to 15,000
No.
square. I mean, there's no way, square feet. So yeah.
But the lot areas may be there. That may be what the lot areas are. They may
Really,
already
remove
be
the word
that
yard.
non-conforming. That's my point, is these lots are already non-conforming as to size, bulked area.
Would be the sets, yeah.
Right, but if we were to do the bulk area, there's a lot of lots down there, 20-foot strips by
Right.
60 feet long,
Yep.
and it's not a building lot. And if you do a bulk area, you could really try to put in a long, narrow house. To me, remove the word yard and the slash, and it's just setbacks.
Just setbacks. I think that's what it was.
I don't know how you get that. house
Charlie,
past
you
the
were
building
here when
department.
this was written, all these dates, so what
Oh,
did you
yeah,
mean?
but a lot of times.
That's why I'm
I'll tell
asking.
you go back to Nick's been here. Last time we had the review, we swore that what we'd sent in, things were changed that we weren't aware of.
But it didn't get changed.
No,
Or things got changed that you had no knowledge of.
that's right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
So-
are we in agreement on that?
Yeah, I
So
would
she has
say.
a clear,
Yeah,
Yep.
it's a sin.
It doesn't matter either way. I just want clarification
word
so
out
I
of
can
it.
take the word
relate.
yard and the slash out.
All right. So basically, we're just talking front, side, rear yards.
Yeah,
Okay,
because that's what we let
that's
go
fine.
of
We
the.
just need,
part
I
of
want to
this
know what to
that,
tell the
yeah,
the
the
people
other
that
day.
come in and say, this is what I want to do.
Question for Lori.
So this is front, side, and rear only. Okay, that's very helpful. Thank you for that. What was the other thing? Some other things that I have done historically, and I know that you have as well, but I'm not sure you're crazy about having pre-discussions with applicants. What I've done in the past is make sure that if an applicant comes in and says, hey, I'd like to do this, I could do this or this, but I'd like to know from the commission what you think. And you could say, we'll give you our opinion, we'll give you our ideas, but it's not a predetermination and it is not an approval.
Well,
But that
I
way
know
they
what-
have a better idea, like if somebody's trying to rezone something, or if somebody is kind of thinking about something that's just a little bit outside of the regulations, just outside of the box, is that something that you would entertain? That doesn't mean that you would approve it, it just means, yeah, I think that's really good. If you change this word and this word in our regulations, then, maybe, that would be a great
We did that,
development.
Lori. Let me tell you what happened. We were doing that, and it got that the applicants ended up with us wanting us to having us do the design work for them. And then, so the commission decided, well, we aren't going to do that for you, so we're going to limit you, I think it was 15 minutes. And we went to even just 15 minutes. But then it got to same thing. They wanted us to design it for them. And the commission just says, look, if we have to, you're welcome to come in and talk to us. But really what they were after, no matter what questions they would ask us, it was to get our brains and
And then-
design it, and also to get an inference that, yes, we would approve it.
Yeah, and then if it didn't get approved, you
Say,
know,
"Well, you
but you
said."
said.
Yeah, that's right.
That's what happened before.
So, we discontinued it unless they really had to come in for whatever they wanted to address us for, but I guess we ended up that we wouldn't answer questions or anything else. They could make their presentation, but then we were getting apprehensive about saying anything.
For the most part, though, staff pretty much knows, or at least they did for a while, I think they know now, how we think and how we feel about things. So they can usually answer those questions.
You know, and I agree that that would be the case, certainly not with me right now, but
you
I
will
mean,
shortly.
these two young ladies here knows the
pretty well.
commission quite well. In East Windsor, I knew my commission very well, but we did this not consistently, but if there was something that, you know, for instance, there was a senior multifamily housing that we didn't really allow, and the regulations basically were not market friendly. And they came in and said, you know, we'd like to do this. This is going to be a high-end senior housing, non-assisted. And they just said, you know, would you entertain, not agree to or anything, but do you think that you would entertain some regulation changes that would have density changes that would make this a marketable project?
Well, we've done that.
So that's all I'm talking about. I'm not saying it's more like, would you be okay with this type of a concept? Because they don't
No,
want to.
we've done that. What we
Okay.
thought you were talking about, they'd come in for developments and buildings and so forth and that. And we'd end up designing a project.
No, yeah, I certainly would not want to present
Actually,
that to you
the
either.
villagers
I
came in
mean,
for that years back, and then they came in with plans and said, well, you said.
Yeah, the perfect example of how it works,
And we
when
have
it
to
works,
court with it.
is people that are looking to, you like you said, outside the box, modify the regulations to better
Exactly.
fit what they want. So we have entertained that.
Oh, yeah.
We're entertaining one right now.
I know. So, you know, that works, but like everybody else said, when they come in with the plans for a subdivision that doesn't
We worked on
conform,
for quite a while
know,
with
you can't
Triano
say no.
property.
You can't prevent them from putting the application in, and then they're not happy because we said that they could put it in.
Yeah, no, yeah, there's a difference between the zone change, again, because our regulations, I don't know how many years it's been since they've been looked at. And they're
too many
archaic.
years. They need some tweaking.
And they're awful to work with, and I don't know how the staff works with them.
Yeah.
But you try to get through to the council for staff to work on it, and the women have been doing it, but they don't have enough time to finish or to do the work that, even
Right.
making deliveries to the house. It's not a way to use staff.
Well, they don't. The police deliver it. The
Not
explorers.
Not always.
We've had courier service right there.
Oh, that's true, yes.
Well, if
So,
I don't mind.
but that's very helpful, because I find it that the applicants feel much better about putting money into their engineering and
Oh,
stuff.
yeah,
Once
no,
they
zoning
have a
change
feel
and
that
that stuff,
it's
no.
like, all right, at least they're going to listen to us, as opposed to say, you know, and if you don't like something, you could say, it's like, you know, the reason I don't like something like this is because da-da-da, it doesn't meet the POCD, and it really doesn't fit that area, and I would be reluctant to.
That type of stuff we've done, and we still do.
You can still do that.
And they
Okay,
have a
well,
right
that's-
come in
that's
front
great
of
to
us
know.
Before they go
Yeah,
on the
but not
agenda
to
and
request-
just
they
throw
don't
out an
wanna hear it.
idea.
Not,
just
not
want
to
a
request development.
They want a
No,
free.
but
No.
just, you know, I'm just kicking this around and just get the feeling and.
Well, usually they're coming before us because the regulations don't match what they want to do.
We're talking about
So if
regulations.
they can give us an application for a zone change or text change, then we can say, well, this part of it looks good, this part of it might be too intense, and perhaps you might want to word it this way. because we've done that a lot.
Well, the Triano property
Yeah,
was the last one
exactly.
we really did do, and that took quite a while to do, that we were doing that.
But they didn't have to do any engineering or anything till they got the zone change, the regulation change approval. So I think that's a really
But
good
we were
way to
getting
do it.
people coming in, let's say, a housing development. And, that's a little bit different. Zone changes, fine.
I think that this is more for like if it's more conceptual, like overall big picture concept, not okay. Here's my details of my architecture. What do you think?
Yeah. Yeah.
This is really just so they have a better guidance as to which direction they should be going if they have alternatives. Based on the commission's kind of general feeling.
Well, we did the same for, what's it, Mayfield, up on Maple Road. That was text change.
Right. So, okay, that's wonderful, because I really think that's a great service to the development community, if you're willing to do that.
Yeah, that's entirely different than what we were doing. Because everybody was coming in for every little thing, trying to find out whether it would pass or not pass.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Oh, wow.
You're always in such a hurry.
You're over there competing with me.
All in favor?
Let me ask my question, huh?
No, sorry.
Okay.